The file on Dr. Raymond Hale's desk was not supposed to be interesting. That is the thing about these cases. They never announce themselves. They arrive in the ordinary packaging of ordinary problems. A referral letter, a GP's note, a patient who is not sleeping and cannot say exactly why. They sit in a manila folder between two other manila folders, and a psychiatrist with 19 years of experience picks them up and thinks, "This one I can help." Dr. Hale opened the file on a Monday morning in March. He read the referral. He scheduled the appointment. He made a cup of coffee and moved on to the next folder. The patient's name was Owen Garrett, 23 years old, warehouse worker. No prior psychiatric history. His problem, he would tell Dr. Hale at their first session, was not what the referral letter described. His problem was a place he had found and could not stop returning to. What follows is reconstructed from Dr. Hale's clinical notes and his personal journal. His daughter provided access to the files after the case was closed. She asked only one thing in return, that whoever read them understood that her father was a careful man, a methodical man, a man who did not believe in things he could not explain. She said this the way people say things they need to be true. Keep your flashlight close. Act 1. The first session. What follows are the clinical notes of Dr. Raymond Hale, extracted from the archived files of his private practice on Sutter Street. Dr. Hale had been a psychiatrist for 19 years. He had a daughter who turned 7 the week before he disappeared. He had never, in 19 years, written anything in his notes that he could not explain. The first entry is dated March 3rd. New patient, Owen Garrett, 23 years old, referred by GP following 2 weeks of reported sleep disruption and what the referral letter describes as intrusive ideation. Owen presents as calm, articulate, slightly guarded. Works night shifts at a warehouse on the east side. Single. No prior psychiatric history. He tells me his problem is not what the referral letter says. His problem, he says, is a place. Owen Garrett had been exploring abandoned buildings since he was 17. The buildings drew him. The silence in them was a different kind of silence than the silence outside. He had learned to read locked doors, to move without sound, to stay long enough that the spaces stopped feeling threatening and started feeling like something else. Something that felt, he told Dr. Hale, almost like rest. He had found the Crestview Mall in January, 6 months empty, the anchor stores dark behind lowered gates. The East Wing service entrance had a lock that a flathead screwdriver opened in under a minute. He went in on a Tuesday evening and spent 3 hours walking the concourse. But the mall itself was not what brought him to Dr. Hale's office. It was the play structure. In the northeast corner, behind what had been a food court, there was a children's play area. Enclosed, carpeted in faded primary color foam, climbing frames, a ball pit long drained, and a tube slide, enclosed, orange plastic, approximately 4 meters of spiral descent from a platform 6 feet off the ground. Owen told Dr. Hale that the play area was in better condition than anything else in the mall. Not maintained, simply preserved. As though whatever process of decay had consumed the rest of the building had stopped at the entrance to that carpeted enclosure and chosen not to continue. He sat in the play area for over an hour on his first visit. He described the feeling as the closest thing to calm he had experienced in years. The food court outside was dark and gutted, but in the play area, the light through the skylights was soft and the silence was complete. He went back the following week, Dr. Hale writes, and the week after that. By his third visit, he had gone down the tube slide twice. He laughs when he tells me this. He says he is 23 years old, and he spent his Saturday afternoon alone in an abandoned shopping mall going down a slide. Dr. Hale notes that Owen's affect is warm during this part of the account, that he seems, describing the play area, genuinely at ease in a way he had not seemed at the start of the session. Dr. Hale writes, "I find myself reassured. The behavior is eccentric but not pathological. Urban exploration is a known hobby with an established community. The play area likely triggers a nostalgia response, genuine psychological comfort derived from a space associated unconsciously with safety and play. The sleep disruption and intrusive ideation may have another cause entirely. I will explore this in the next session." He underlines the word reassured. The next session is dated March 10th. Owen had gone back to Crestview on the Thursday between appointments, 4th visit. He had gone down the slide 3 times. On the 3rd descent, somewhere in the middle of the tube where the spiral bends and the light from both ends disappears, he had heard something. Not a creak, not the building settling. A sound that had come from inside the tube. From above him, in the darkness of the spiral. It had sounded like a voice. High, very high. The single word it had spoken was his name. Owen had come out of the bottom of the slide quickly. He had stood in the play area and listened. The mall was silent. He told himself the acoustics of an enclosed plastic tube in an empty building could produce strange sounds. He told himself, sound travels. He had almost convinced himself. Then he heard it again, from the entrance of the tube at the top of the platform. His name, the same voice, waiting. He left, but the following Tuesday he went back. Dr. Hale ends the March 10th entry with a single line. Owen describes the voice as similar to his own, several tones higher. He says it did not sound afraid. He says it sounded like it had been there a long time and had learned to be patient. Dr. Hale does not write what he thinks about this, but he schedules the next appointment for 3 days later instead of a week. Act 2. The sessions continue. The March 13th entry is longer than the others. Owen had gone back to Crestview 4 more times since the last session. Dr. Hale notes this without comment. A patient who visits an abandoned building 4 times in 9 days is a patient whose behavior has shifted from eccentric to compulsive. Dr. Hale does not use the word compulsive. He writes, Owen reports returning to the site with increased frequency. The voice had spoken to him on each visit, always from inside the tube, always after the 3rd descent, never the 1st, never the 2nd. Always his name, in that same high register, patient, unhurried. But in the March 13th session, Owen tells Dr. Hale something new. The voice had started following him home, not into his apartment, not through any surface that could be explained away, simply present. At the edge of his hearing, in the space between sounds, in the moment before sleep. His name, high, steady, the way a signal sounds when it has been broadcasting for a very long time and expects eventually to be received. Dr. Hale writes, Owen is sleeping approximately 4 hours per night. He attributes this to the voice, though he acknowledges it does not prevent sleep so much as it makes sleep feel inadvisable. He describes a reluctance to be unconscious. I have recommended a short course of sleep support medication. He declined. He said he did not want anything that would make it harder to hear clearly. Dr. Hale underlines the last sentence. He does not explain why. The sessions that follow, March 17th, March 21st, March 24th, document a pattern. Owen goes to Crestview. He walks the concourse. He enters the play area. He goes down the slide twice, and on the 3rd descent, the voice speaks. He leaves. He lies in the dark and the voice follows him there, quieter but present, until morning comes, and it recedes to something he can almost disregard. He does not stop going. Dr. Hale asks him, in the March 21st session, why he continues returning to a place that is clearly causing him distress. Owen's answer, transcribed in full, is, "It doesn't feel like distress when I'm there. It feels like the opposite. The voice is different inside the mall. It's closer, clearer. When I'm there, I feel like I almost understand what it wants. Dr. Hale writes, I asked Owen what he thought it wanted. He said he didn't know yet. He said the word yet with some emphasis. The March 24th entry contains the first physical description. Owen had been at the top of the platform, preparing for his third descent, when he looked into the entrance of the tube. The tube was dark, the spiral cutting off the light almost immediately. But on this visit, in the darkness at the curve of the first bend, he had seen something catch the light. 2 points, roughly level with each other, roughly the distance apart that eyes would be if the thing that had them was crouched inside a tube 60 centimeters in diameter. Owen had gone down the slide anyway. Dr. Hale notes this without editorial. He simply records, Owen entered the tube. He reports that the voice spoke his name twice during the descent. He reports that something moved in the tube above him as he slid. He reached the bottom without incident. He describes the experience as the calmest he has felt in weeks. He went back the following day. The March 28th session is the last one before the gap in the notes. Owen had made his 9th visit to Crestview. On the third descent, in the blind section of the spiral, his hands had made contact with something. He did not describe it as a collision. He described it as a meeting, as though two things had arrived at the same point from opposite directions at the same moment. He felt joints, too many of them, bending in directions that his own did not bend. He felt something that was not quite a hand close briefly around his ankle. Then he was through, coming out the bottom of the slide into the soft light of the play area. He sat on the foam floor for a long time after. The voice had not spoken during that descent. For the first time since January, silence. And the silence, he said, was worse. Dr. Hale's note for that session ends mid-sentence. The next line reads, appointment rescheduled, patient cancelled, left message. There is no record of Owen Garrett cancelling that appointment. His landlord reported him missing in April. The warehouse confirmed he had not shown up for shifts. His phone went unanswered. The March 28th session note ends mid-sentence. But below it, in different handwriting, faster, less careful, someone has written 4 words. He stopped going in. The handwriting is Dr. Hale's. The date beside it is April 4th. 8 days after Owen Garrett's last session. 1 week before Dr. Hale's own daughter called his office to say her father had not come home. Act 3, April 4th. This is where Dr. Hale's notes end and where the account must be reconstructed from other sources. There are 2. The first is a brief entry in Dr. Hale's personal journal, recovered from his home office by his daughter 3 weeks after his disappearance. The second is security footage from a camera at the Crestview Mall service entrance. Footage that should not exist, given that the mall had been without power for 6 months, and yet exists nonetheless. The camera recorded 14 minutes before the feed cuts. The footage has not been released. What follows is based on a written description provided by the detective who reviewed it. The journal entry is dated April 4th. It reads in full, I have been thinking about Owen for 8 days. I have reviewed his file 4 times. I have also, in the interest of full professional disclosure, driven past the Crestview Mall twice this week without stopping. Tonight I stopped. I am not doing this as Owen's psychiatrist. I am doing this because I do not believe what Owen described, and I think it is important that I confirm that disbelief with evidence rather than assumption. The service entrance is open. I have a torch. I will be 20 minutes. The security footage shows Dr. Hale entering the mall at 11:08 p.m. He moves through the darkened concourse with the torch, his shadow long and unsteady on the shuttered storefronts. He pauses once, near the entrance to the food court, and appears to look at something off camera. Then he continues. He enters the play area at 11:14 p.m. The camera does not cover the interior of the play area. What it covers is the corridor outside, the approach, and the exit. The detective's report notes that Dr. Hale enters the play area and does not reappear in the corridor for 11 minutes. At 11:25 p.m., the motion sensor at the play area entrance triggers. Dr. Hale does not come back through the corridor. What comes through the corridor is not Dr. Hale. The detective's report describes it with the flat effect of someone who has written the words several times and each time found them inadequate. Small in the frame, not short but compacted, as though assembled to fit a space considerably smaller than the corridor. The limbs bend at intervals that do not correspond to any joint a human body possesses. It moves along the wall rather than the floor, not crawling, not climbing, but adhering, the way a thing moves when gravity is a preference rather than a rule. The head is disproportionately large. The face, in the torch beam that has been left on the floor of the corridor, is mostly mouth, not open, simply mostly mouth, the way some faces are mostly eyes. The line of it runs wider than the jaw should permit, and it is smiling. The detective uses the word smiling. He crosses it out and writes it again. It pauses at the entrance to the corridor. The torch beam catches it fully for 3 seconds. Then it looks directly at the camera. The detective notes, and this is the line that was redacted from the initial report and restored only after his retirement, that in the moment it looks at the camera, it speaks. The audio is poor. The building's acoustics make the sound difficult to isolate. But the detective, who reviewed the footage 11 times, writes that the word it speaks is a name. Not Owen Garrett's name. The footage ends at 11:27 p.m. The camera does not record what happens next because at 11:27 p.m. the camera stops. Not a power failure. The feed simply ends, as though whatever was being recorded had decided it had been seen enough. Dr. Raymond Hale has not been found. Owen Garrett has not been found. The Crestview Mall was demolished 8 months later to make way for a distribution center. The play structure was removed during demolition and placed in a salvage yard on the east side of the city. The salvage yard's records show it was purchased 3 weeks later. The buyer listed a residential address. The address belongs to a house with a small garden, a family home. The kind of house where, if you happen to drive past on a quiet evening, you might see a light on in one of the upper windows, children's drawings on the glass, the ordinary evidence of an ordinary life. The tube slide is in the back garden. The neighbors say the children love it. They say they can hear them playing on it sometimes late at night, going down and down and down. 2 men, 1 place, 1 tube slide in an abandoned mall that is no longer standing. Owen Garrett went back 9 times. Each time the voice called him by name. Each time he went down anyway. And on the 9th descent, his hands found something in the dark that should not have been there. And the voice, for the first time, went quiet. Dr. Raymond Hale went once. He was there for 17 minutes. He did not come back through the corridor. I want you to sit with one detail from the clinical notes. March 3rd, first session. Owen tells Dr. Hale that the play area feels like the closest thing to calm he has experienced in years. Dr. Hale writes this down. He finds the whole thing reassuring. He underlines the word reassured. A careful man. A man who drove past the mall twice before he stopped. Who wrote in his journal that he would be 20 minutes. Who left his torch on the floor of the corridor when he went in, as though some part of him already understood he would not need it on the way back. The tube slide is in a garden now. Children play on it. The neighbors hear them at night going down, and down, and down. Here is what I keep returning to. The detective who reviewed the footage 11 times writes that the thing in the corridor spoke a name. Not Owen Garrett's name, someone else's. The report does not specify whose. I have my own theory, but I want to know yours. Leave it below. I will be reading every one. This has been Flashlight in the Dark. If this found you tonight, leave a light on. Come back soon. I will be waiting.